open the baby. Buongiorno. Welcome to Walker Wine session number 11. Numero 11. And today I am pouring for myself, but also for y'all, a bottle from St. Cosme. They're Cotes de Rhone, so from the Rhone Valley in France, 2017 vintage. I'm kind of one of their mainstay wines, Deux, Albion. It's a kind of typical GSM blend that you would see from the Rhone Valley, the southern Rhone Valley. This one, there's some cork all over my notes. 50% Syrah, 20% Grenache, 15% Carignan, 10% Mourvedre, and 5% of Claret, a white grape, permitted in the use of the making of Cotes de Rhone, Cotes de Rhone red. Pretty dark, I would say kind of a brickish, dull purple color. Healthy amount of alcohol, 15.5%. Certainly higher up on the scale of wines these days. 2017 was a warm vintage over there, and I don't know if you remember, but one of the first wines I reviewed was their Deux Albion Blanc, which is also a high alcohol wine, but a lovely one. Viognier, Marsanne, and a little bit of Picpoul. And yeah, I'm really excited about this one. When I looked online and saw some of the tech notes that were posted on the importer's website for this wine, I was really shocked to see some of the pH and total acidity values or numbers for this wine, as they are quite respectively, I guess, low, if you will. Well, low in TA and high in pH. So it should be very soft acidity-wise, and hopefully it's holding up well, but I've got high hopes for it, so I've got faith. I just opened the bottle, as you can see, so I haven't tasted anything yet, haven't written any notes down. I wanted to kind of fly by the seat of my pants today in that regard. And St. Cosme is, a really old producer of wine, almost about 450 years right now, I guess. Getting closer to 500 years old. Still in the same family. The son is the winemaker there. He's converted the properties over to biodynamic. So I'd imagine most of all of their sprays and such are all organic as well, and using copper and sulfur. And they make a slew of wines, and I think they do a great job across the board. I haven't had all of them. I'd say they've got about at least 15 different wines that are imported into the U.S. I'm not sure if they make anything else that's just for the European or French market, but I recommend them all, and I think they do a great job. You can kind of taste different price points and different villages or AOCs over there, and get familiar with that kind of southeastern Rhone territory of France. But my first whiff of this wine, I guess maybe second now, but just a deep, deep nose. And I went for this slightly more open glass, as it's gonna let some of that alcohol kind of disperse and not concentrate it too much for me. But just beautiful black and white pepper amongst this kind of blueberry, cassis type, dark purple blue fruit. Yummy, almost a little like this sweet soy sauce. I think that claret really kind of adds a little bit of this interesting coolness to the wine. It gives it this kind of fresh aspect that I really like. And, you know, that may or may not be the claret, but I'm sticking with it. I feel like too, I've had a lot of Mourvedre that, what is it? It's only 10% in this wine of very ripe Mourvedre in my wine tasting career or experience on planet Earth. And most of that being from California. But I'm picking out specific flavors of this kind of stewed, in a pleasant way, but like this hot stewed on the stovetop raspberry type of flavor. That's really cool as well. So definitely there's some complexity here right off the bat. And for some reason, I just felt like this wine was going to express itself right out of the bottle. You know, I think that the vintage, so the alcohol and the low acid, to me kind of screams that it's probably getting close to being ready to drink, if not was already ready to drink before today. The nose kind of reminds me of some Syrahs I've had from Walla Walla too. Is very kind of bubbly and aromatic, fruity type nose that has a certain pungency to it. It really cuts through the fruit. This like blue fruit kind of cuts through the palate of the aromatics in this regard. There's a little meatiness there as well. Kind of like maybe like a Iberico ham, I would say, not prosciutto and not your like traditional ham steak from America. First sip, it's very round in the mouth, medium bodied. My first sip of wine today, so I'm gonna give it the second sip before I think too much about the texture and such, but it definitely seems like there's a little bit of tannin in there for sure. Definitely a little alcohol as well at 15.5. It's kind of pushing that threshold these days of where most, you know, warm climate wines, you know, 15.5, 16%, usually the max that you'll see in a dry table red, with a few outliers there above 16. But big fruit, that black and white pepper spice definitely translates into the palate as well. I think a wine, just right off the bat, you know, this is probably a $20 retail wine. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it, but it wasn't too much more than 20 if it was. I remember the white was around $20 as well, maybe 22 or something like that. I would say definitely a bigger style, something that I would expect to from this vintage and this producer. Making this ripe, rich style to the vintage, and you know, I like that. I like that they didn't try to make an elegant, low alcohol wine in a year that, you know, wasn't suited for it. That would have been probably not a great turnout in my opinion. So the wine itself was, they made, I think, about 55,000 bottles of this. And it was fermented in concrete tanks and then aged in both cement and wooden vats. I would imagine probably varying degrees of size. And it was all 100% whole cluster. So the stems and berries and all that intact, so you have the whole cluster. And those were all co-fermented. So, you know, the Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, Carignan, not Cinsault, Carignan, and then the Claret, all harvested and all fermented in the same vats and or vat, if they had one big vat. But so they're all co-fermented, also with indigenous yeasts, so yeasts that were either came in on the grapes from harvesting them in the vineyard, and or from yeasts that were naturally floating around in the winery at the time of fermentation. Both are viable there, and as they've been making wine for almost 500 years, I'd imagine they've built up a very large culture of wine munching yeasts, or I should say sugar munching yeasts of the wine variety. Cerevisier, they've got that built up, a little culture in their winery over 500 years. So all the microflora just kind of floating around, keeping busy while we're cooking and drinking wine and philosophizing. Second sip, my palate's kind of adjusted to the alcohol, certainly also adjusted to the tannins. They say on the website that this wine has 3 grams per liter of TA, of acid, total acidity, which is quite low, also with a 4 pH. But regardless, that just goes to show that you can make beautiful wines with low pHs and high TAs, and the opposite as well. The wine still is juicy to me. It hasn't fallen apart yet. It hasn't oxidized. I would say it's within its drinking window here in the next couple years for this vintage. I don't think it's going to last the long haul in 10 or 20 years by any means, but it's just expressing itself beautifully. It's not holding back anything. It's delicious. It's got fruit. There's probably a skosh of sugar. It said it was 1 gram per liter. So it's just a tiny skosh in there. Nothing to gawk at, but just a pleasure-filled wine with complexity, a nice balance of fruit and other earthy tones, and the pepper and the meatiness, a little smokiness, smoked Iberico jamon, we could say. I'm not a specialist in smoked meats, although my dad does make a lovely barbecue sauce. Just, I'm tempted to say that those stats I don't think were correct that were posted on the importer's website. Whether they probably added acid, I am sure, to this wine. Maybe the claret helped with that, possibly. Although if they were all fermented at the same time and that was part of it, I would imagine the claret was also lower in acid. But just juicy, big fruit, that pepper spice, the meaty, the smoky, really a wine that's just got a great all-around package, all-purpose wine. I think would go really well with certainly some meats, some charred meats. I know on their winery's website they mentioned some pigeon or chicken done in this like Moroccan style. So definitely some food with some high heat and or spice impact. I think this wine's gonna hold up to it and not cover up the food, but play with it. Certainly one that you could probably drink on its own as well, although I think it would go best with food due to its alcohol level. It's a little high just for sipping. At least the whole bottle solo, but everyone's got different tolerances. But I'm happy to see that this wine, you know, kind of goes with my observation of many wines these days, that amongst a changing climate and a seemingly warming climate in almost every region, you know, sugar levels are going up, alcohol levels are going up in wine, acid levels are going down, and that may reach a point of no return with some of these varieties and where they're being grown. But still, to this day and age, I think that this wine is lovely at this alcohol, and whatever adjustments that were made in the winery to make it approachable, and you know, in a biodynamic manner. I would imagine, obviously they've added sulfur, but I would imagine it too it was, you know, the minimum effective SO2 or sulfur. So hats off to these guys and gals working there that they farm 65 acres. You know, it's a lot of acreage, but not a crazy amount, manageable. I think they've got a slew and an arsenal of wines that are going to reflect the Rhone Valley quite well, and you're going to find something for really every palate out there within their winery portfolio. One final sip and final thoughts, if I have any. Downright delicious. Yeah, great wine. I think they're on the 2018 vintage right now, so that's probably what you'll find out and about. It's probably delicious as well. I recommend that. But yeah, a great region. The Rhone Valley is for, you know, all wine drinkers of the world. It's a large area. It's very long, north to south. It encompasses many different grapes, styles, climates, and I'm sure lovely people and places to visit. So I don't see any reason to not support this winery and the wineries there. You can find something for everybody. There's probably someone growing Pinot Noir somewhere around there, but other than that, you know, elegant styles of rosé, big styles of rosé, cool climate wines in the north, oak aged wines, more of your stainless steel clean style of wines, everyday quaffing whites and big reds, you know, warm big grenaches and peppery syrahs from the north, and blends and everything in between. $8.99 price points, and you know, $500 for La Turque and all the La wines. So there's something out there for you in the Rhone Valley. Go get you some. Chin chin, alla prossima volta. Ciao.